Hello guys, it's your boy LucidDryft here. How's it going? About to go for a ride, and before I do, I wanted to show you guys the damage I did to my bike as a result of me doing something really stupid. I was actually able to catch my fall on my GoPro, so I can actually link the video to you guys so you can hopefully avoid making the same mistakes that I made. As you can see, kind of fucked up my my exhaust here, but luckily this is still the stock exhaust, so I want to eventually get rid of it anyway. I scratched up some of my fairings right here, as you can see, so that sucks, and right here is where I took a lot of the damage in terms of fairing damage. This thing actually isn't even flush anymore. It's actually kind of raised here, so maybe I can get like a new piece eventually. We'll see how that works out. And I don't know if you could see it, but this light was actually completely kind of sideways, so I had to kind of bend it back into its socket there. So that kind of sucks. So the last thing I did was I think I screwed up my turn signal button, which is kind of strange considering it fell on this side of the bike, so I'm not really sure how that happened, but other than that, bike seems to be running okay. So quick story on that, I was coming off of an exit, going way too fast, and decided to brake at the very last minute before making my right off of the exit, and ended up hitting a pile of pebbles, and the bike instantly just dumped from under me. So kind of fucked up my wrist. Luckily I got it x-rayed. I thought it was broken. Luckily it's just a sprain, so it's doing a lot better now, but it's definitely still tender. Had some scratches here. You can see I have like a hole, a big ass hole in my gear. Burnt right through it, burnt right here. My strap is about to fall off, which sucks because this is pretty expensive, you know. My jeans were like ripped. Yeah, it sucked. But anyway, I thought this would be a good time to do a video for you guys about riding a bike for the first time. Now, granted, this wasn't my first time riding a bike, but I definitely made a mistake like I was riding one for the first time. So hopefully you guys can learn from these things to consider before or during your first ride. So let's hop on the bike and let's get to it. All right, things to consider. Number one, I would take the time to maybe go to a nice quiet spot and practice troubleshooting a few things. I remember when I first started riding, I came to an intersection once, and I think what happened was I forgot to like downshift back to first, and so when green light hit, I ended up stalling my bike. So I was sitting there at the green light wondering, like, you know, touching all my buttons and shit, like wondering what the fuck happened. And little did I know, I stopped the bike without even really realizing it. So I would definitely recommend maybe finding a nice quiet spot and just putting yourself in that situation where like you stalled your bike, and just train yourself to kind of figure out what you need to do in the event of that happening. Alright, things to consider. Woo! Number 2. Visibility is very important. One's ability to see you on the road behind possibly another car is significantly decreased due to you taking up less space, right? No brainer. So I would definitely recommend practices that reveal you to people in the opposite lane. Just from my own experience, I remember 2 instances where I was riding kind of directly behind someone. So let's say there's a car right in front of me. I was off to this side of the road, and there was a car in the opposite lane that decided to make a left turn directly in front of me, but he didn't see me behind the person in front of me, so he basically just ripped a left turn in front of me, and I had to jam on both of my brakes, and I ended up swerving my bike. Luckily, I didn't fall off, but it goes to show you, if that guy saw me, so instead of being on this side of the road, if I was on this side, where I know people are going to be making left turns, I probably would have increased my chances of being seen, and maybe he wouldn't have pulled that left turn. So definitely very important thing. Things to consider, number 3. Definitely be aware of the surfaces you're riding on. Now, I can't tell you how many times that I've been on a surface with like tons of grit and pebbles, and just from a standstill, making a turn, I've had my tire slip out from under me. Now, I didn't fall over or drop the bike, but, you know, I could have easily dumped the bike if I weren't, I guess, on stable footing. And speaking of footing, I've actually had instances where I actually had my foot slide out from, kind of slide out from under me, and I almost kind of like fell over. So it's definitely a good idea to be aware of the surfaces you're riding on. So especially if you're making a turn, kind of like how I did in my accident video, it could definitely save your life if you realize the type of road that you're riding on. So if you know there's going to be kind of like rocks, or if the road isn't well asphalted, it's definitely in your best interest to kind of take your time to go a little bit slower than you usually would, to prevent any potential damage to you or your bike. So I think that's a really good one to bring up. Things to consider, number 4. I would definitely recommend giving yourself a little bit more room to brake than you would in a car. Now, I'm guessing all these things are probably things you're going to learn in class in your Motorcycle Safety Foundations course. But I can't stress enough how important it is to kind of give yourself that little extra room to slow down, because you're not going to have the stopping power that you would on a bike, or I'm sorry, in a car. So with that said, it's important to kind of give yourself just that little extra room, just so that you don't end up locking up your brake, or locking up your wheels when you decide to brake, and fishtailing, or crashing into the person next to you with your bike because it flew out from under you. So definitely something to really consider when you're out there on the road. Things to consider, number 5. Now, this is probably the most important of the 5, and I would imagine the most obvious, but please, 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 wear a helmet, wear your gear, take the second or two, the extra couple of minutes to gear up, even if you're going across the street, because your gear is going to save your life in the event of something going wrong, which will happen. It's just a matter of time. Now, from showing you guys earlier, luckily at the time of my crash, I was wearing my full armor. I do have knee pads that I wasn't wearing that day, which in hindsight I kind of wish I were, just because I did fuck up my knee a little bit. But thank God I had my gear, especially my helmet. On my right side of the helmet, I actually ended up scratching the visor, and like the visor and kind of where like your ear and jaw kind of meet, like right in that area. And I couldn't imagine if that were, flesh and bone hitting the asphalt at 30 miles an hour. So an obvious rule or thing to consider, but please wear your fucking helmet, wear your gear. It's going to save your life someday. Alright everyone, that about wraps up my video for today. I hope all these pointers were a little educational for you guys. I promise if you put them into practice, you'll make your first experience kick so much ass. As always guys, thanks for watching. Lucid signing off. Peace.